Hello everybody, my name is Offbeat Outlaw. Welcome back to power building. That's right, I'm not reviewing today, I'm showing you how it's done by presenting one of my most mediocre builds yet. Why do I set myself up for failure every time? What is today's build? Well, today's build, if you saw my skit video from last week, which you can check out probably here, you saw I made a build about terrifying your enemies. And with that, I present to you the fear build, Dreadnight. This is what Dreadnight's Hero Forge is. I thought I'd start showing you guys, just like, because whenever I make these builds, I always make a Hero Forge for them, just because I think they're cool. Here is Dreadnight. The download link for Dreadnight will be available on my Patreon if that interests you, as was this video 24 hours early. So if you want a Dreadnight of your very own to use in tabletops and whatnot, you can just either make it yourself or you can download the download link. There is also the stat sheet. I've now started using D&D Beyond so that people can use them in their games easier if they come to my Patreon. Notice how I'm shilling my Patreon. Please buy my Patreon, please. So, this character obviously made using point buy. They are a variant human, because everything I do is variant human. Paladin 8, Fighter 3, Sorcerer 5, Warlock 4. Now their subclasses is Oath of Conquest. For the fighter, I believe they are a Battle Master. They are an Aberrant Mind Sorcerer. So this is the alien guy. He's got an alien in his brainium. And Hexblade 4. So the point of this build is to take advantage of the Oath of Conquest's 7th level Paladin feature, the Aura of Conquest. And what this aura does is it allows you, if an opponent is feared within a 10-foot radius of your character, they cannot move. Their movement is reduced to 0. Why is this good? Well, having no movement can do a few things for you. First of all, they can't run away, meaning you can just walk up to them and start hitting them and they can't leave unless they teleport. Second of all, they're frightened by you, meaning they're going to be making all their swings at disadvantage as long as you're within line of sight. And on top of that, their movement's 0, so if they drop to prone, they can't even get up, which is hilarious to think about. What is the dream plan for this character? The dream plan for this character is to have their channel divinity. Their channel divinity, Conquering Presence. So, as an action, force the chosen creature within 30 feet of you to make a wisdom saving throw. DC 19, or they'll become frightened for 1 minute. Creatures can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of its turns. Now that's obviously really good. Within 30 feet of you, that effectively makes it a 60-foot diameter circle in which you can just say, you're all scared of me now, fear me. Which is obviously ridiculously powerful, but more than just being powerful because you can make people feared, and within a 10-foot radius, now they can't even run away from you. But there's some other stuff we can do here. It wouldn't be a power build unless there was something else we could do here. Allow me to introduce you to, this is so unnecessary, but 5th level command. You can now target 5 targets within your radius and command them to grovel. Not making this up. So you channel divinity, action surge with your fighter, and then command grovel. Now they have to drop prone. The target falls prone and ends its turn. Obviously on a saving throw DC 19, but now they're prone. They've ended their turn, and now that means on its turn, it's just gonna drop prone. Dropping prone doesn't require any movement. However, getting up from prone requires half your movement. But because their movement is 0 within your radius, they can't get up. Which is hilarious. Like I said, there are 5 people now who can't even get up. They're just stuck on the ground, terrified of this incredibly menacing individual. Honestly, he looks pretty badass. I thought I did a really good job on the Hero Forge. So now these guys are terrified of you, shitting their pants. They're on the ground, groveling. So what can you all do now? It wouldn't really matter if you couldn't do big damage. If you couldn't threaten them in any way other than just by being threatening, this wouldn't be a power build. Obviously, you can do other stuff. Obviously. Who do you think I am? My comment section. There's a few ways you can do big damage. You can potentially save that 5th level spell slot. I used this guy recently in a D&D campaign, so that's why all the spell slots are used up. There's other stuff you can do with this character that would potentially be useful. You have access to 4th level spell slots because of your sorcerer levels. You can either save them all for smites, which to be honest is a relatively good use of them, or you can also cast things like Cloud of Daggers. Now remember, they can't move, so they're going to be stuck in there for the entire duration of Cloud of Daggers. And with max level of everything, what you can potentially do, let's just say you didn't use command and you used a lower level spell on command. If you use your 5th level, all your 4ths, and then action surge, that would potentially be, this would be 20d8 from all of the smites, 24d8 because you're using a long sword, and then on top of this, you can quicken spell Booming Blade as your bonus action, so that would be an extra, an extra 4d8 from the Booming Blade, and then you can do a 3rd level spell slot for another d8, for another 4d8, for 32d8 damage. Look at all those dice. My god. 141 damage. But I do actually think that's on the lower end. By 5 times 32 plus, and then all the modifiers. You've attacked 5 times. You have a plus. You get a +8 on the damage. So it'd be actually 189. And then you could throw on top of that a few more d8s from your Battle Master dice. So you can do about 189 damage in a single turn to these now unmovable enemies. These enemies who are now stuck there forever. Which is, like I said, hilarious. So this build got a few really good things about it. It can do a lot of damage. It can inflict a really debilitating condition en masse. It can lock down enemies should they fail that condition, and it can do a ton of damage. And you can't see its health, but it's not bad. It's at 170 HP for level 20. Isn't bad. It's not amazing. And its saving throws are amazing because it's a paladin. This thing would seem like it has no weakness, and in a way, it doesn't. It's kind of really good. It's a really playable build. It's super playable. However, the thing that I power built for, the reason why it's good is because the whole fear tactic has a glaring hole in it, like a big old block of Swiss cheese. And that's the fact that frightened is not a great status. Well, don't get me wrong. It's a good status if you can inflict it. But a lot of creatures, not only do they have at the higher levels magic resistance, meaning they get to roll all saving throws at advantage if it's from a magical effect or spell. On top of that, legendary resistances, which they can just choose to use should they fail. And then on top of that, some creatures are just outright immune to being frightened. So with all of that intermingled, this build begins to fall off at the level that I built it for. It has a glaring weakness, and that is the fact that inflicting conditions like this is very hard. But there are ways around it. Fear not. You see, it is so debilitating to come across it, which to be frightened, which means dungeon masters will save legendary resistances for you, meaning that you can get rid of those legendary resistances quite quickly as well. For instance, let's just say you did something funny. Let's say you're a silly little guy, you're a silly little boy, you're a silly funny man, and instead of using those spell slots for damage, you recognize that you needed those legendary resistances out of the way. Because you're so threatening, if they are feared, what you do is you use your action to use your channel divinity. There's a good chance they'll fail because, you know, it's a DC 19. Then on top of that, you action surge, and instead of doing attacks or anything, you cast fear. Project a phantasmal image of the creature's worst fears. Each creature in a 30-foot cone must succeed. So now there's a chance they could succeed on this, but there's also a chance they could fail. And how do we ensure that it fails? We use one of our sorcery abilities, one of our meta magics, Heightened Spell. When you cast a spell that forces a creature to make a saving throw, spend 3 sorcery points. Give one target disadvantage on the first saving throw it makes. This will do a great job in making sure that you are chewing through those legendary resistances. It's a really good idea to do this. And then you can quicken spell Booming Blade, and then use a Battle Master technique and use Menacing Attack with that Battle Master technique on that Booming Blade, and hopefully you would have chewed through all 3 legendary resistances in one turn if all goes well. Statistically, is that likely? It's less favorable than it is, but there's a chance, and that could be an incredibly good play that absolutely cements this build as really good. There are definitely ways to get around this build's weaknesses, despite it having, despite the fact that some of its weaknesses are quite glaring. So, where would I rank this build? How would I do this? Now, if this was Power Build fan submissions, I would probably rate this build a 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10 for a few reasons. One, it accomplishes what it does, and it's not bad at doing it. However, the last 3 points, is it impressive? No, it's kind of neat. Doesn't do anything insane. I mean, the damage it can deal with its booming with its Divine Smite Nova is pretty cool, but nothing impressive, nothing unheard of. At the end of the day, it's kind of just a neat little tech you can do with the Conquest Paladin, and with, you know, some Sorcerer levels, some Warlock levels thrown in there just to give it a bit more utility. But overall, yeah, 7 out of 10 in my opinion. Is it playable? You will definitely have a lot of fun with this build. At lower levels, build all the way up to Paladin. I would suggest starting as a Paladin at your first level, and then at 5th level, take 1 level of Warlock, and then just continue to go the rest of Paladin. Then level up Warlock, then level up Fighter, and then finally level up with Sorcerer. Sorcerer is the least necessary part of this build. The only reason it's there is because it has access to really good spell slots. But that is it for today. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of Power Builds. Reminder, my Patreons get all of these. My patrons on Patreon, link in the description, get all of these videos 24 hours early. So if you want to see all these videos, every single one of my videos before anyone else sees them, become a patron today. On top of that, patrons get access to the PDF and the D&D Beyond file, D&D Beyond link, and they will get access to the Hero Forge link if they would like to have this character in their games, on their tabletop. That is all for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Get the fuck out of my house.